Here I'll be showing you some more things that I have seen people doing wrong in CSGO even in 2020, or things they could just do a little better. First things first, ladders. When you climb them with only W, you're way slower than using W and D or W and A. You need to look up, and at the opposite side you're using to climb a ladder faster. I usually go with W and D, so I aim up and left to climb up with my right side touching the ladder. And it's worth doing it even if you want to be sneaky silent, because you're still gonna move a tiny bit faster. So it's useful to learn how to climb up and down while holding two keys. Also, at some places you don't really need to use a ladder to get down, because you can fall onto an object that saves your HP and gets you down quicker. For example, here on overpass, jump off from this metal thingy, press S at the right time in the air, and here's the quickest way to get down and push connector. Simple as that. Next up, you're surely doing it wrong when you're not subscribed to my channel. There's a pretty easy 2 clicks fix for that, because you want to turn on that bell button as well, otherwise YouTube is still not showing my next videos to you. And then in-game, try to avoid hugging walls. When enemies coming from distance and you're playing in the narrow corner, they can easily see you first. Beginners who don't know about this often call their opponent cheater because they can't see them yet they die. But it's just how the game is built. Keep in mind you want to have some distance in between you and objects close to you. Of course, there are some counter/opposite plays, so on a higher level you can do the unexpected, but in general, especially if you're a casual player, avoid hugging walls and you'll see that some duels will become way easier for you than before. Alright, Inferno with a very certain mistake I have seen people doing. So there's almost always a pit defender who plays this wall position, and now I have seen people either helping to execute with this wide swing Molotov or nade behind the wall, or even solo, people go out here and try to get some free nade damage onto this CT. It's cool, but at the same time very risky, because this guy could simply face you and frag you with a nade in your hand. Still, I have good news for you. There's a chance for free nade damage without going out. You don't need to go as wide as Kardashian hips to Molotov or nade this place, just bounce it off from this wall, and if they're not holding an off angle, they simply can't see you. Why not to clear the off angle and nade here safely? Super general. Next up, Mirage, and what often CTs do wrong here is they either don't guard ramp properly early round so Ts can quickly push out Tetris, or they just smoke it late so they can still go out. This is how I like to surprise my opponents as a T. When I'm feeling it and I have a good spawn, I just try to sprint out ramp and catch someone off guard. But as a CT, especially if you have a bad spawn, make sure you Molotov ramp or at least nade it, because when you're late and you smoke will be way too late for a quick T-side push, as Ts can easily be out on A before the smoke pops. Just make sure you're aware of the fact that Ts can be way quicker out ramp than most of the people actually expect. One more thing on Mirage that's kinda questionable in my eyes is that flashing through the window for yourself habit. Lots of people do that, and it may make sense mid-round where it gets underpass and bottom mid guys as well, but not in the beginning of the round where enemies can be at max top middle, because as you can see here, for the top middle guys the flash really doesn't do anything. It gets them very briefly half white, but they could still see you peeking out from window. There's just too much distance in between an opponent and the flash, so always let your teammate, preferably from A bomb side, flash you into middle. That's surely your best option for the beginning of the round. We're gonna continue with grenade fakes and when to do them and when not to do them. Depending on a situation, it may be a good idea to throw a fake flash like this towards short, so enemies may think you're coming from short, not market, plus therefore it may increase your chances to win the round. But when there's a possibility that enemy is pushed close market, rather don't try this fake, because every time you throw a grenade, you make this tiny sound that simply reveals your position, and instead of a clever play, the outcome is pretty silly. As you could hear, enemy simply gets a warning that you're very close, but again, if you're sure that no one is close and can't hear you, this type of fake could be 4155 IQ and ready top page material. Simply feel the game and do your own decisions. If you see your teammate is trying to be sneaky, silently lurking at some place, don't be the guy who acts like an elephant right behind them. Know where to stop running and don't ruin your teammate's lurking move that could potentially be a game changer. That's not nice. Even fully solo, know the entry routes and places where you should stop running to not to give enemy side any sound clues what's gonna happen. Depending on your spawn, in B apps it's the stairs area right here, and for A palace, go walk from here. It all depends on your own spawns and enemy spawns of course, but better be safe than sorry. when you're planting the bomb, it's not a bad idea to think it through where you and your team are going to defend it from, and therefore plant the bomb next to an object or a wall, but make sure it's still an open, easy to guard planting spot. For example, when you want to plant your bomb for CT spawn on Mirage, you can plant here, which is okay, but enemies could defuse the bomb while facing you and therefore be more dangerous too. But you could also plant the bomb here, close to firebox, so opponents can't defuse and face you at the same time. If they would like to stick with the defuse, they need to face down. You could peek out, easily see if they are defusing or not, and either hide again or frag them. This same idea applies to many spots on many maps, but one more example from here, Mirage A bomb site. A better connector plant is this one right here, where opponent cannot face you and defuse a bomb at the same time. Super general. Vertigo, you are doing it wrong if you're careless here on A ramp, thinking that you are safe, because especially if this place is smoked, opponents could anytime use these sneaky gaps to get a free damage or even a frag on you, plus it's very hard to see it coming even when you know those gaps, so take care and watch out. Alright, don't be afraid to execute the same tactic twice or even more when you fail it beforehand. For example, I have seen very often one team rushing B, failing it hard, and then they don't touch B or at least rush it for a couple of rounds because they failed. Plus the other team kinda leaves B open because they know their opponents are not coming B anymore. Now if you're playing for the side who failed the tactic once, go play some mind games and do the very same thing one more time, if not more. You may change some small details, like if you rush, smoke the molotov properly or add some flashes, but don't be afraid to do the same thing you failed once again, because most of the times enemy team doesn't expect that. The harder you fail at first, the less they expect you to do that again. Wise words from Mr. CSGO Worldwide. Next up, a thingy I hate to see, because I have said it countless times that when you're retaking, especially alone, you heavily increase your chances to win the round by smoking the bomb and maybe even tapping it early on, come off the bomb, and now since enemies are most likely gonna spam the smoke, you get to know their positions. Also, it prevents all their fancy afterplant molotovs, but a mistake I see too often is that people come to retake. Let's say A bomb site Mirage, they have no idea where enemy might be, but they just try to campbell plus smoke off one random place. It doesn't give you much, because if there's a little time left, someone could molotov the bomb, or they could push the smoke, or they could come from a completely different direction. If you don't know, in fact, the enemy is either ramp or palace, you should always smoke the bomb to increase your chances to win the round. In most of the cases, I would even smoke the bomb and play around the smoke when I know opponent's position, because let's say it's 1 versus 1 and I know enemy is in palace. I smoke palace and tap the bomb so they would come out, but now if they have a molotov plus there's not much time left, they could peek out, molotov the bomb, and even if I get a frag, I still can't defuse the bomb. Although when I smoke the bomb and tap it, they need to push out and start spamming bullets or come and try to knife the smoke. In most of the cases, especially 1vx clutches, smoke on the bomb is your best option to make enemies' life as uncomfortable as possible. Keep that in mind and use this knowledge well. You are doing it wrong if you're not paying attention to you and your teammates' spawns. For example, in some rounds you can even switch positions as a CT to have one certain player to push some place that they have the best spawn for. When you have aggression plan in your mind, make sure the spawn is favoring this idea. It's not smart to push with average or even a bad spawn, because you surely lose the potential surprising factor, but with the best spawn you could easily catch off guard an enemy with an average spawn going the same direction as you. So make sure you pay attention at your spawn at all times, as having a bad spawn could mean that opponent with a good spawn could already be out A ramp on Mirage when you're still close triple. Also, it would be nice if you know the meeting points, but as it's whole new topic itself, I'm gonna tell you only one certain example that most of the people don't expect. If T and CT both have good spawn for underpass, T will still be on stairs when CT can potentially push out here. Groovy as that. One more rookie mistake I have seen particularly with nades. Some people tend to throw grenades with too much power. They run throw nades when running is not needed at all. For example, Dust 2A bomb site. It's not the best example, but you get the point. Let's say one guy is camping right behind this box. You can simply do it with left click, as nade explodes pretty close to the corner here. Yet if it would be a real match scenario, lots of people would add a step here. Since the objects cover the corner, nade doesn't go too wide as it usually bounces back, but still you waste some valuable valuable damage by adding extra distance to that nade. Again, I have seen lots of examples like this where people feel they need to run throw because they think otherwise nade won't have the necessary distance, but believe me, throwing nades with casual left click only gets you a pretty lengthy result. Now left click throw my subscribe button and I will